For the last several years, the official story on Canada's next fighter jet has been closed. That story just broke. In late March, Saab's CEO, Mikael Johansson, went on the record confirming that intensive talks are still underway with Ottawa for its Gripen fighter, while the government's F-35 review remains without an end date. This directly contradicts the long-held assumption that the F-35 was a procedural and inevitable choice. What was sold as a foregone conclusion is now revealed to be a live, high-stakes negotiation. But to grasp the significance of this moment, we can't just look forward. We must first look back and deconstruct the powerful political and industrial machinery that made the F-35 seem like the only possible choice for so long. That powerful machinery, the one that made the F-35 seem inevitable, was built on a simple yet deeply embedded premise. For decades, Canada's defense policy has been shaped by a single, quiet assumption. Deep integration with the United States is not a choice, but a necessity. Structures like NORAD and NATO aren't just alliances. They are the very architecture of our national security. And within this architecture, the F-35 was positioned as the only logical upgrade. This wasn't just a vague idea. It was backed by decades of strategic and financial momentum. Canada has been a partner in the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program since 1997, investing over $500 million in its development before we even committed to buying a single plane. This created a powerful bureaucratic inertia where officials publicly described the eventual purchase as all but procedural and inevitable. The foundational argument was always interoperability, that we needed the same advanced fighter as our American allies to effectively defend the continent. But then, in March 2026, the entire justification for this inevitability was publicly and professionally dismantled by the single highest authority on the subject. The U.S. commander of NORAD, General Guillot, stated in a hearing, and I quote, "Frankly, sir, we don't need 5th gen to defend our borders. Those capabilities are better used overseas. A revamped and modernized 4th gen would meet all of our requirements." Let that sink in. The official rationale for the most expensive military procurement in Canadian history, that it is essential for continental defense, was just invalidated by the very man in charge of continental defense. This creates a massive contradiction at the heart of the entire debate. So, if the F-35 is not actually required for the primary mission it was sold on, then what is the real purpose of this seemingly unstoppable deal? The real purpose of this seemingly unstoppable deal is not about a specific mission. It is about forcing Canada to make a fundamental choice between two opposing philosophies of power, deep integration versus genuine sovereignty. This is the actual debate that has been obscured by technical arguments and bureaucratic inertia. On one hand, you have the F-35. It represents the philosophy of deep integration. Think of it less as a purchase and more as a subscription to an American-managed military ecosystem. Its operational nervous system, logistics systems like ALS and ODIAN, its proprietary data links, are all centrally controlled from the United States. This provides immense, unparalleled capability, but the price is dependency. You're a user in a powerful network you do not own. On the other hand, the Gripen represents the philosophy of sovereignty. Its open architecture design is not a marketing term. It's a strategic principle. It means the operator, the nation itself, is given full control over their own source code, their own mission data, and the integration of their own weapons. We see this with Brazil, which locally produces the jet as the F-39, directly strengthening their domestic aerospace sovereignty. It is interoperability without surrendering national authority. You are the owner of your system, but let's be very clear. To frame this as merely the American ecosystem versus the Swedish alternative is to miss the strategic trap entirely. This next point is not just an analogy. It is the key to understanding how a 21st century nation's sovereignty can be quietly throttled without a single shot being fired. This choice is strategically identical to the 5G network debate Canada faced. Choosing the F-35 is like building your nation's critical communications infrastructure on a proprietary black box platform. It's a system you cannot fully audit, whose software updates are pushed to you, and whose data ultimately flows through a central hub you do not control. The Gripen, with its open architecture, is the equivalent of building that same infrastructure on an open source framework. You hold the keys, you control the data routing, you decide which new applications, or in this case, weapons and sensors, are integrated and when. Source code access and data routing are not just for engineers. They are the levers of 21st century sovereignty. The question therefore becomes a stark one. Do we want to be a privileged user within the most powerful system on Earth, or do we want to be the sovereign owner of our own national security infrastructure? However, this choice between being a user and an owner is not made in a sterile theoretical environment. It's made in the messy reality of geopolitics. And as we've laid out this stark choice, we've neglected to ask the most critical question of all. What happens when the priorities of the system's architect, our closest ally, begin to diverge from our own? So what happens when the priorities of the system's architect, the United States, begin to diverge from our own? The answer is simple. Pressure is applied. This isn't born from malice. It's born from the cold, rational logic of a superpower protecting its global architecture. For years, this pressure was subtle. Warnings didn't arrive through headlines, but through quiet diplomatic conversations where the underlying message remained unmistakable. A decision to move away from the F-35 program would introduce consequences. The real fear in Washington is not about Canada's military capability, it's about precedent. The core assumption of the US-led alliance is that technological and operational integration creates unbreakable cohesion. If a key partner, a Five Eyes member like Canada, successfully demonstrates a path to independent capability, it sends a dangerous signal to other nations. It suggests that autonomy is possible, potentially weakening the very foundation of that integrated system. And then that quiet pressure spilled into public view. The moment came when the U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, explicitly linked the F-35 purchase to the very defense of North America. He warned that any deviation from the full F-35 order would force the United States to make alterations to NORAD operations. Let's be clear about what that means. It was a thinly veiled suggestion that if Canada chose a different aircraft, the U.S. might have to increase its own fighter patrols within Canadian airspace to maintain what they call interchangeability. Suddenly, the abstract concept of geopolitical pressure became a concrete sovereign challenge. So the external pressure is immense, a powerful force pushing Canada to stay within the established American system. But this debate is not happening in a vacuum. Despite this pressure, there are compelling, pragmatic, and fundamentally Canadian reasons why the sovereignty option remains on the table. So beyond the geopolitics and the external pressure from Washington, the debate inside Canada is being driven by three cold, hard, pragmatic realities. These are the factors that keep the sovereign option firmly on the table. First, there is our geography. Canada is the second largest country on Earth, defined by vast, remote, and often harsh territory. The Gripen is specifically engineered for this exact environment, built on a concept of dispersed operations. Now, what does that mean in practice? It means the jet can take off and land from temporary runways, even reinforced public highways, supported by a small ground crew. Picture this: a stretch of the Alaska Highway in the Yukon, suddenly serving as a forward operating base. A Gripen lands, is refueled, rearmed by a handful of technicians, and is back in the air protecting sovereign airspace in minutes. This capability, proven in Sweden's own Arctic missions, is not a luxury for Canada. It's a fundamental requirement for defending our immense territory. Second, the economic reality. Cost. The price tag for the F-35 has been a persistent political problem for years, and this isn't speculation. A June 2025 report from Canada's own Auditor General confirmed that the projected life cycle cost for the F-35 had escalated by 8.7 billion Canadian dollars from the 2022 baseline. That is not a minor overrun. It is a politically seismic figure that forces a government to justify its spending at the most fundamental level. Third, and perhaps most strategically, is industry. Saab's proposal is not just to sell Canada fighter jets. It's a formal offer to build a domestic aerospace hub, promising a full and complete transfer of technology. This isn't just about assembly. It's about giving Canadian industry the knowledge, the patents, and the capacity to maintain, upgrade, and ultimately control its own defense technology. The projection is that this would create or sustain approximately 12,600 high-tech jobs in Canada. This aligns perfectly with the stated goals of our own government, where leaders like Industry Minister Melanie Joly have consistently emphasized linking national security with long-term economic outcomes. These 3 points, geography, cost, industry, form a powerful, pragmatic case. But it's when you pull the lens back that you realize Canada is not the first major American ally to stand at this exact crossroads. The situation is a direct historical echo, a proud sovereign nation, a cornerstone of the Western Alliance, considering a path that diverges from Washington's technological roadmap. A leader forced to choose between the deep integration offered by a superpower and a more difficult but independent strategic future. He was accused of fracturing the alliance, of dangerous pride, but his decision reshaped the balance of power within the West for decades. Understanding what he did and why reveals the final hidden stake in Canada's choice. That leader was French President Charles de Gaulle, and the stage for his decision was not a battlefield, but the quiet, carpeted offices of post-war diplomacy. By the early 1960s, de Gaulle looked at the NATO alliance and saw a fundamental problem of sovereignty. France, a founding member and a key European power, was operating within a military command structure entirely dominated by the United States. From his perspective, this wasn't an alliance of equals, it was a system of subordination. His proposals for a tripartite directorate, equal control for the US, Britain, and France, were quietly rejected. The message from Washington was clear. The command structure was not up for negotiation. So de Gaulle began to change the terms himself. First, he withdrew the French Mediterranean fleet from NATO command. Then, other naval and air force units followed. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a calculated, deliberate escalation. The final move came on March 7, 1966. De Gaulle sent a formal letter to U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson. The letter was polite, but its contents were an earthquake. He announced France's complete withdrawal from NATO's integrated military command. And he went further. He ordered all foreign military elements, all of them, including over 30,000 American troops and their bases, off of French soil. His reasoning, stated plainly in the letter, was that France was determined to regain on her whole territory the full exercise of her sovereignty. NATO headquarters was forced to relocate from Paris to Brussels. The alliance was shaken. But it did not break. De Gaulle's goal was never to leave the Western Alliance, but to redefine France's role within it. He proved that it was possible for a key ally to remain a treaty partner, while reclaiming full sovereign control over its own defense and its own industrial base, ultimately creating its own independent nuclear deterrent. This is the historical echo we hear in Ottawa today. The fundamental question is identical. Just as de Gaulle questioned France's role in a U.S.-led military command structure, Canada is now being forced to question its role in a U.S.-led technological and logistical one. It's the same strategic dilemma, simply wearing a modern digital uniform. De Gaulle provided the playbook for strategic autonomy. He proved that an alternative path exists. And that raises the critical question for us right now. What would actually happen if Canada decided to follow it? What would choosing the path of sovereignty over integration mean for our industry, our place in the world, and our ability to defend ourselves in the 21st century? To answer the first of those questions, what this choice means for our industry, we have to correct a fundamental misconception. Thinking about this as a one-time purchase misses the most important implication. It's second-order effects that will define Canada's industrial trajectory for the next 40 years. Economists have a term for this, path dependency. An initial choice, especially in high technology sectors, is never isolated. It sets in motion a virtuous or vicious cycle that compounds over decades. The common assumption is that a major procurement is just a transaction. The strategic reality is that it sets the nation's industrial course. Simply buying a finished product off the shelf as with the F-35 locks us into the path of being a constrained supplier in a system we don't control, but choosing to build locally, as the Gripen proposal details, sets us on a completely different path. Let's be specific. That proposal is explicitly tied to creating a Canadian production hub. According to reports, this would generate an estimated 12,600 high-tech jobs over the 40-year lifespan of the fleet. The core of the offer is not just a final product, but the means of production, a made-in-Canada assembly line with full technology transfer. This is the seed capital for a self-sustaining industrial capability, allowing Canada to not only maintain its own fleet, but to conduct its own research, perform its own upgrades, and eventually innovate independently. This is where the long-term vision becomes tangible. Imagine a Canada in 15 years where our aerospace engineers are not just assembling components for a foreign design, but are developing the next generation sensor upgrades for a Canadian-built fleet. Imagine them exporting that expertise to other middle powers seeking their own autonomy. This is the compounding interest of sovereignty. Ultimately, this is what transforms Canada's role on the world stage, from a dependent buyer within a single dominant ecosystem to a sovereign partner with advanced capabilities. It allows us to engage with a wider range of allies, but crucially, on our own terms. In this potential future, this vision of an industrially sovereign Canada, all hinges on the decision made in the present. It forces us to weigh the two philosophies one last time. So we return to the central issue. This choice was never fundamentally about the aircraft themselves. It was about Canada's willingness to question what are, in effect, deeply integrated defense structures that were never designed to be questioned at this level. This forces a fundamental question about our nation's place in the world. As one analyst aptly put it, the real conversation revolves around how much control any nation is willing to retain over its own defense infrastructure. And this is the ultimate choice it presents. On one hand, you have the immense power that comes from being a fully integrated partner in the world's most advanced military ecosystem. On the other hand, you have the resilience and the long-term strategic independence that can only be guaranteed by sovereign control. Ultimately, this is a question of strategic priorities. For a country like Canada, what is more valuable in the 21st century? The unparalleled power of a deeply integrated alliance, or the resilience that comes from sovereign control? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if you value analysis that connects the dots on these complex national issues, subscribe to see the bigger picture.